This resimulation has certainly had some twists and turns so far, and this reality is far different from our own. But how different is it exactly? Let's take a look. I've tracked every individual award that every player has earned, and aggregated them in an attempt to find the best players in real life and the best in the simulation. I was surprised at how similar players' careers were overall, but there were certainly some major differences. It seems in 2K that players will peak much faster than they do in real life, and this has led to some players to break out much quicker than they did in reality. The most notable examples are DeMarcus Cousins, Klay Thompson, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Steph Curry, and Gordon Hayward. From 2010 to 2014 in real life, only Boogie had one All-Star appearance amongst this group. However, in the simulation, they all averaged nearly 30 points a game and had a combined 37 awards. Another notable player was John Wall, who was selected to every single defensive team since his rookie year, and even made a few NBA teams as well. But it isn't just the youngsters that overperformed in the simulation. There are some veterans that did as well. Al Jefferson was in the running for MVP one season, and was selected to multiple All-NBA teams, including 2 first teams. Dwayne Wade won an MVP as well, which he never managed to do in real life. Danny Granger and Gilbert Arenas managed to avoid injury during their pivotal years, and were actually able to have much greater careers, both being chosen for multiple NBA teams. Iguodala and Deron Williams both had their primes saved by being a part of super teams, and they therefore win a whole lot more awards because of it. Melo also won himself 2 back-to-back championships, something that would have certainly saved his legacy if he'd done so in real life. While many players saved their legacies in this resim, some fell hard and didn't accomplish what they did in real life. Tyson Chandler is in the same defensive stopper he was in real life, and didn't win any awards or a championship. Another real-life defensive stopper that doesn't do a thing is Joakim Noah, who never even goes above a 75 overall, as his starting role was taken over by an up-and-coming Bismack Biyombo. Nowitzki also begins to decline much quicker, and isn't even making the All-Star team in a historically weak Eastern Conference after 2011. Kevin Love also massively underperforms, not even making an All-Star team. Amari Stoudemire and Steve Nash also fall off much faster in this resim as well. In real life, they both got to the conference finals in 2010 with the Suns, but in this simulation, they didn't even make the playoffs. I don't understand why Amari was so bad, but I think Nash's pitfall was his god-awful shot tendency that 2K gave him to start. These were all pretty significant differences. However, what I found most interesting is the similarities that we saw. Just like in real life, Derrick Rose showed amazing promise, and while he may not have been an MVP, he was a first-team All-NBA member in 2011. However, he still fell prone to injury multiple seasons and could never really get the Bulls anywhere past the conference finals. LeBron also had a pretty similar arc. He left the Cavaliers after losing the second round in 2010, where he wins MVP, and then wins his first championship on his new team in 2012. However, he just wins one, at least so far in the resim, after only making the finals just once, so that's a little bit different. The most similar and tragic parallel was Chris Paul's career. Just like in real life, he leaves the Hornets after making the playoffs multiple seasons but not being able to get past the second round, and joins a new team where he makes the playoffs each year, but again cannot get past the second round, due to playoff injuries mostly, as well as the Western Conference being insanely stacked. Fingers crossed that CP3 will have a career arc similar to what he's having in real life, because if he never wins the Spurs a championship, I'll be very sad. So what about NBA franchises? The teams that exceeded far more in the resim than they had in real life were the Jazz, who had signed LeBron, the Sixers, who had signed D. Wade, the Nuggets, who had signed Bosh to join Melo and won a championship, and the Warriors, who had signed Durant about 5 years early and won a championship as well. There were also teams that underperformed, like the Celtics, whose Big Four all abandoned the team much quicker, and they never made the playoffs after 2010, as compared to real life where they were a finals team as well as making the playoffs every year but 2014. The Clippers were also massive losers, as they never even made it to the playoffs in the resim. They had never traded for Chris Paul though, so this wasn't too much of a surprise. The Grit and Grind Grizzlies also disbanded after 2 years in this resim, all going their own ways, so that didn't leave much luck for Memphis. They do have Chris Bosh now, however, as well as OJ Mayo, so they're still well off for the future. The most notable underperformer is, of course, the Miami Heat. They didn't manage to sign or draft a single star, and lost weight after the 2010 season, so they never even made the playoffs after that. To end this video, I want to try and rank the best players in real life as compared to the resim. This is a ranking for just the 2010 to the 2014 era, so whatever has happened to each player outside of that range will not hold any weight in my ranking. Also, this is completely subjective. While LeBron obviously wasn't as successful in the playoffs in the resim, I think it's pretty clear he's the best player with his 2 Defensive Player of the Years and 2 MVPs, as well as being on first team All-NBA and All-Defense every single year. In real life LeBron, I think his 3 MVPs and 2 championships justify him being number 1 enough. Dwight Howard not only won 3 DPOYs in 5 years, but also single-handedly took his Magic team to the finals. He may not have won, but he did just 2 years later on the Thunder, where if he hadn't fell out in Game 7, he probably would have won Finals MVP. Kobe, on the other hand, won a championship in 2010 in real life, and while he didn't win any after, he was one of the most feared players in the league and was on multiple All-Defensive and All-NBA teams. Dwyane Wade led his team to the finals twice, won an MVP, and was also the only other player aside from LeBron to be on the first team All-NBA all 5 years, not even mentioning his multiple defensive All-NBA selections. You can certainly knock him for his 2 first-round exits. However, you have to consider he did lead the Sixers to the first seed 4 years, but also played his ass off in both losses. He may have had a few hiccup games, but overall it was his team that let him down in each series loss. KD may have not won a championship during this era, but he was a 4-time scoring champion, the only player besides LeBron to be named to the first team All-NBA each year, and he led an extremely young and scrappy Thunder team to the finals in a Western Conference that was completely stacked, as well as 3 conference final appearances. Therefore, I think Durant is a pretty safe choice. Melo was a pretty easy choice for number 4 in the resim. He definitely would have been ranked higher if it weren't for his past 3 seasons, but you can't take away from his back-to-back championships. The only time he didn't make an All-NBA team was when he was injured, so I'll give him a break on that one. For the real-life rankings, this is where it starts to get difficult. While there may have been more playoff-accomplished players left on the list, you have to take into consideration that this is just for the 5-year period that I'm judging on. During this time, Dwight Howard never missed an All-NBA selection, won 2 Defensive Player of the Years, and single-handedly led his Magic team to a conference final. He was a dominating force in the paint on both sides of the floor, and while his legacy is somewhat tarnished now, during this time, he was an MVP caliber player at least 2 of the 5 years. I've already sang my praises for real-life KD, but Simulation Durant wasn't too far behind. He was first-team All-NBA just about every season, was points leader in 2011, and obviously won the Warriors a championship. He may not have been Finals MVP, but if he hadn't gone down with injury, he definitely would have, as he was clearly the best player on his team. Dwyane Wade in real life was also a force to be reckoned with. His speed and athleticism combined with his skill and intelligence made him a nightmare to guard, and he was also a terrific defender to boot. His 2 championships and 4 finals appearances can't be ignored either. And even though he may not have been the best player on his team, if he wasn't in Miami, the Heat would have never made it to the finals in the first place. I'm probably a little bit biased here in my choice for Boogie. After all, he wasn't even in the league during the 09-10 season. However, with his MVP season, as well as his ability to single-handedly lead the Bucks to the playoffs each year, is extremely admirable. You can look at all his first-round exits and scoff, but he pushed each team he played to 7 games, and for some years he was injured, so you can't really fault him for that. Chris Paul is one of those players who could have easily been much higher in this list, but he wasn't only because of his poor and unlucky playoff performances. CP3 was a monster on both sides of the floor, the textbook definition of a point guard. The fact I have him only at 7 on this list honestly shocks me. I feel like he should be much higher. Do I even have to justify this pick? Russell Westbrook was arguably the best player in the 70-11 Thunder squad, won a Finals MVP, and helped lead the Thunder to multiple conference finals. The stats are all there. Westbrook 100% deserves to be up here. But let's be real. Dirk is mostly on here because of his Finals MVP, but that isn't the only reason. He led his Mavericks team as the only star to the playoffs almost every year in the greatest Western Conference in history, and that often gets overlooked. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Stats aren't everything. Alright, so here's the first player you're definitely not going to see on the real life list. While Chris Bosh winning a championship certainly helps boost him up on this list, it was also his regular season performances. People seem to forget how good Bosh really was in the Raptors, and if he had signed somewhere other than Miami, he probably would have had similar production in real life. I originally had Derrick Rose here, but looking back at his career, I don't think it'd be fair to put him on this list, as he was injured 2 out of the 5 seasons. Instead, I've put up a man who put up some of the best stats out there, but could never manage to get ahead in the league. While it's easy to put all the blame on Melo, you have to realize the only star teammate he ever had was Stoudemire, and he fell off pretty quickly. Also, aside from this past year in real life, New York hasn't been known to be the shining beacon of basketball. It's kind of a shit show over there, and you can't blame Melo for poor management and insanely stupid executive decisions. Simulation CP3 is almost exactly the same monster as he was in real life. In fact, in preparation for this video, I tallied up every award each player won, and CP3 won 18 awards during this 5-year period, in both the sim and real life. There was no way I could leave CP3 off this list though. While he never made it past the second round, he did make the playoffs each year, and was in contention with each matchup. Okay, so I know I'm a Spurs fan, and there certainly is a degree of bias in this, but I'm not going to count out the man who led his team to the top of a stacked Western Conference multiple years, as well as 2 finals appearances and a ring. This era was Tony Parker at his peak. He was the most talented player in the Spurs during this era, and you can't overlook his production or his awards. I'll probably get a lot of hate for this one in the comments, but I don't care. There are plenty of players you could easily argue over Parker for this spot, but at the same time, how many of them made the finals twice and led their team to the top seed 3 times? You all weren't watching this man run 36 miles an hour up and down the court, spinning like a blender and finishing while falling to the floor night in and night out like I was. This is certainly the weirdest selection for this list, but I think the statistics speak for themselves. Al Jefferson was not only a 2-time first-team All-NBA selection, but was a runner-up for MVP one season. If he had had more regular season success and actually made the playoffs more than twice, he probably would have been much higher in this list. But how could he when Johnny Flynn was a starting point guard each season? Yeah, that Johnny Flynn. And it didn't help that Kevin Love didn't seem to want to get any better, so it was all on his shoulders. Okay, I know, more San Antonio bias, get out of your system. Much like with Kobe, the statistics only say so much. It was Tim Duncan's leadership that propelled the Spurs into their many years of success. I made an Excel sheet with every award winner so far, so if you want to check it out, see how your favorite player did, I'll leave it in the description. Let me know if you like this video at all, and maybe I'll make another one of these videos once I've simulated another 5 years. Also, leave me your top 10 players from the 2010 to 2014 era in the comments. I'm curious what everyone's choices might be. But that'll do it for this video. So until next time, peace.